In this exercise, we're going to take that stroke effect that we applied to the placed image, and we're going to change its color. We're going to assign a new blend mode. We're going to scoot it in as well so that it fills in this bleed area. And then we're going to replicate the effect, albeit with a different color, on the second artboard. So I've gone ahead and saved my changes as the StrokedImage.ai, found inside the 11 printing folder. And I've clicked on the image on the first artboard to select it. Notice here in the appearance panel that I've got my stroke attribute along with that rectangle effect right there. Now, the color I'm trying to match is this orange framing element, and I happen to know because I've already inspected it, took a look at its fill. It's filled with 40% magenta, 90% yellow, and it's set to the overlay blend mode. So we need to replicate those effects. So I'll go over here to my stroke option, click in its color swatch to make it active, then shift-click in order to bring up that pop-up color panel right there. And I'll leave the cyan value set to 0. Tab to the magenta value, change it to 40, then 90 for yellow, and then 0 for black. And we end up getting this shade of orange, which exactly matches the shade of orange that I applied to the framing element. It doesn't look right so far, but that's because we need to apply a blend mode as well. So I'll click on the word opacity up here in the control panel, and then I'll switch the blend mode from normal to overlay. Again, overlay matches the blend mode that I had assigned to the framing element. So I'll go ahead and choose overlay. It uses orange to enhance the contrast of the image below. All right, now I'll go ahead and hide the opacity option. And now we need to scoot the stroke inward. To adjust the placement of the stroke, what we can't do, incidentally, you can't click on the word stroke and switch to a different alignment option. Notice that we have one and only alignment option that's available to us when we're applying a stroke to a placed image, and that is this guy right there, align stroke to center. All right, so that's not an option. What is an option is even better. Using this rectangle effect, we can exactly position the center of that stroke. So I'll go ahead and click on the word rectangle to bring up my shape options dialog box. I have the preview checkbox turned on. And what I want to do is I want to scoot the stroke inward. So I need to enter a negative value for extra width because it's not extra. We're subtracting from the width, in fact. So if I wanted to take it all the way in, the entire width of the stroke, I would enter negative 18. But that would take that stroke in too far. You can see that it's now overlapping into the framing element. That's no good. I really need to take it in half as far because we're moving the center of the stroke effect. So we have 9 points on one side, 9 points on the other side. If I'm feeling extraordinarily lazy or I just cannot do math in my head at all, I could enter negative 18/2 and then have Illustrator do the math for me, or I could just enter negative 9 point like so. So negative 9 for both extra width and extra height. Click OK, and we end up getting this effect here. Now, it's difficult to judge whether this is working or not because we're seeing the outline of the artboard. So the outline of the artboard is running right there through the center of the effect. So to test that things are working at least halfway decently here, because this is a little bit of a fudge, as I was saying, go to the View menu and then choose Hide Artboards, where you have this keyboard shortcut, Control-Shift-H. Command-Shift-H on the Mac. That will hide those artboard edges, and it looks like we got it right. Things look smooth on the right-hand side. There's a little bit of a line on the left-hand side. Things are smooth at the top of the graphic as well. When you print this graphic, you may end up seeing a little fine hairline right there. But again, it's better than it would have been had we not added that stroke at all. We also have the problem of these framing elements right here ending right at the trim size. So if the trim drifts, as it will, we're going to see a little bit of edge on either side of some of these framing elements. So again, it depends how much of a perfectionist you want to be. This is sort of an easy halfway solution. Now we need to replicate it, and this is the really great news. We can take this effect and replicate it on the other cover as well, which is going to save us that much more work, because if we really did the deed and we really changed the page elements, we would have to change them manually on both artboards, and there would be no automation available to us. All right, so I'll go ahead and click on this graphic, and then I'll go up to the Graphic Styles panel, which I could also get by choosing Graphic Styles from the window menu, and I'll create a new style by clicking on this little page icon. And that goes ahead and adds a style that's automatically called graphic style. We might want to give it a better name, such as, let's say, bleed fill, and then click OK. But we've got a style that we can replicate now on the second artboard. So let's give that a try. I'll go ahead and click on the image associated with the second artboard, and I will apply this graphic style, and bang, the deed is done. It's that quick. Now, it's the wrong color because I used yellow for this framing element. No big deal. I'll go over here to the stroke item right there. I will shift-click on it to bring up the color panel, and I will change the magenta value to 0, and I'll raise the yellow value to 100%. That's the difference there. And then I'll hide it. I'll go ahead and hide my graphic styles panel as well, and I'm done. That's simple now. I can see a little bit of a hairline on the left-hand side of the page. As I say, if you were to print this graphic, you might see fine hairlines on both the left and right-hand sides. However, it's certainly a lot less noticeable than having a bunch of exposed imagery right there in the background. In the next exercise, I'm going to show you how to add crop marks around specific objects in your illustrations.